The Clothing Bank was an initiative by Mayor Ed Koch back in the late 80s in an attempt to provide for the New York City's homeless population. Where the New York City Clothing Bank is headquartered in Sunset Park, Brooklyn. However, we reach all of New York City's 5 boroughs. The New York City Clothing Bank has been in existence for about 23 years and has distributed in excess of $10 million throughout its lifetime. However, recently, under the guidance of Peter Young Housing Shelter Services, we have expanded our reach quite significantly. The New York City Clothing Bank is able to perform all of this through the support of city officials as well as corporations throughout the tri-state area, such as Dress Barn, Macy's, and Old Navy. The Clothing Bank is supported in part by the Department of Homeless Services. However, this means that we must raise the balance of our budget on an annual basis. Member partners are nonprofit organizations providing goods or services to needy New Yorkers throughout the 5 boroughs. On the average, our partners are able to collect from us about $16,000 worth of clothing, which is roughly about 2,000 pieces of clothing throughout the year. The New York City Clothing Bank is able to do this by reaching out to retailers, wholesalers, and manufacturers, taking their excess inventory and processing at our site through the use of mostly volunteers, and we redistribute appropriate clothing to our partner agencies. Peter Young Shelter Services' primary mission is to create taxpayers, which dovetails perfectly into the New York City's Clothing Bank need to help people in transition, going from a state of dependency to a state of self-support, which is why we give them brand new clothes so that they could have a decent set of clothing to go on a job interview or to obtain their own place of residence. The New York City Clothing Bank provides a workforce development program teaching people how to work and run a warehouse, and then we help find them jobs in that field. The New York City Clothing Bank only donates new clothing. In fact, we process every donation that is sent to us to make sure that the clothing is not only appropriate, but it's free of damages. The groups that come to us for help are those nonprofit organizations throughout the city that cannot process donations the way that the New York City Clothing Bank could process them. One of the members that we recently provided for was the charter icon schools in the Bronx. Now, this is a charter school that has a very innovative way of dealing with the children that they teach. We also know that the children that they have in their schools come from a very needy segment of the Bronx. What we did was we went to them and said, how many children need new coats in your school? And it was virtually the entire population. So instead of just handing out 1 or 2 coats, we decided to come in and hand out a new coat to every child from kindergarten to the 4th grade at their school. We provided coats for 170 students at their school. However, what we did is we brought up over 500 coats so that each child had the opportunity to pick a style and color that they preferred, as opposed to being handed a coat from one of us. The most gratifying part of our coat drive at the Icon Charter School was seeing the faces of the children being able to select a coat that matched their individual personalities because of the style and the colors that they chose. The coats that we took to the Icon Charter School were all brand new, that were donated to us by Operation Warm, a nonprofit organization out of Pennsylvania. One of our newest initiatives is a store that we have created at our premises that we call the New Beginning Clothing Store. What it allows us to do is, on occasion, there's an emergency where a family or an individual needs clothing right away. Our agency partners are able to send these people to us where they could shop in a retail type environment, try on clothes to make sure it fits and that they are comfortable and happy with. Clients that receive our clothing have that inner respect that they may have been lacking for many years simply because they could not afford to find this clothing elsewhere. We provide clothing to over 235 agencies throughout the city of New York who are working with those most in need. We recently responded to the needs of over 100 people that were on board the U.S. airplane that landed in the Hudson River. Within the hour of receiving the call for assistance, we had clothing for over 100 men and women at the hotel that they were being kept. How could you get involved with the New York City Clothing Bank? You can volunteer along with a group such as your co-workers or even your family and come help us sort out these thousands of boxes we receive with clothing. You can give either monetarily or through your workplace giving to help us reach more New Yorkers throughout the year. If you represent a corporation, you can give your excess merchandise and receive the benefit of a tax write-off as well as being a good corporate citizen in your community. For many years, I worked in the warehouse and logistics field. Several years ago, I realized that I could do so much more for so many people by working for a nonprofit, and the New York City Clothing Bank was an ideal situation for me to use my talents in that fashion. What the Clothing Bank means to me personally is a way for me to give back to those most in need. Being the child of an immigrant family myself and having gone through difficult times, I know what it means to get a new coat as opposed to getting a hand-me-down coat.